What's up guys, it's RJ. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're gonna be diving into a Nike and taking a look at another Vapormax. Now I know a few months back, we actually took a look at one of the first Vapormax colorways to drop. I said I wasn't a huge fan of it, but in retrospect, I don't think I gave the shoe enough time. I don't think I wore it enough. I don't think I put it through enough testing to actually get a good feel for the shoe. And I've seen all over the place, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, all the blogs, whatever it may be. Everybody says give the shoe a little bit of time, break it in, and it gets more comfortable as time goes on. So I actually wanted to test this theory firsthand. So I went ahead and picked up another pair of Vapormaxes because I got rid of the first pair. On the new pair, I went a half size down. I'll explain why I did that, but without rambling on any further, let's just dive right into the shoe. Here's the box tag right here, and as you can see, I was lucky enough to actually snag a Nikelab colorway. They're the cool grays. They were semi-limited. They actually set in a lot of places for a while. You might be able to still find them if you're interested. I got them from sneakers and stuff. I'm not sure when you all are actually seeing this, but if you're interested, it's worth taking a look at the site and seeing if they're still available. Like I said, I went a half size down. The last pair I had were a 10.5. I went with a 10 on these. Now let me tell you why. Obviously, just like the racers and the trainers, it has a complete Flyknit upper, and overall, I personally prefer my shoes to be just a bit snug rather than loose, because you can see the way I lace the majority of my shoes, they're gonna sit on my foot just a little bit looser because I don't tie them super tight. It's just my personal preference. Now, if I'm actually going out for a real intense run or something, I'll obviously lace them up a bit more snug, but just wearing around the gym, wearing around the house, wearing them around town, whatever it may be, typically I've got a bit of a looser lace up. So going a half size down made it so the shoe doesn't actually slip in the heel at all when I'm walking. And honestly, going a half size down, they fit damn near perfectly. Like I've said in the past, I have a pretty narrow, skinny foot. I don't really have any issues with shoes that run narrow. My feet aren't super wide. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that everybody go a half size down, but for me personally, what I was looking for, half size worked. And that's my reasoning behind it. Now, as far as comfort goes, the theory is extremely true. The more you wear them, the comfier they get. They mold to your feet a little bit. You don't necessarily notice all the gaps in the bottom of the air bubbles after time. And overall, it's a very comfortable shoe. There's a lot of stability. It sits a little bit high still. I mentioned that in the previous Vapormax video, but you get used to it after time. I don't foresee it being a huge long-term problem with the shoe. Now, there's obviously a few activities I wouldn't recommend doing in it, but if you're running, walking, light gym activity, whatever it may be, it's a perfect shoe for it. It gets the job done. They're very comfortable, very lightweight, very minimal. And overall, after giving them a few weeks to break in, I would definitely recommend the Vapormax to just about anybody out there. Now, the ultimate question is, are they more comfortable than Boost? That's really hard to say. Boost is a completely different material than Air, and I don't think I'm really gonna say whether or not they are more comfortable than Boost. I think it's a personal preference. Both of the materials are different. They respond differently on foot. They do different things. I think it's apples and oranges. I don't think it's fair to compare the shoes. I think they're definitely each very comfortable in their own respect. And we already know I have a ton of Boost. I have a ton of Flyknit. This is the only pair of Vapormaxes I have now, but I definitely wouldn't hesitate in picking up another pair in the future. And if that clot colorway manages to service in my size, I might go ahead and pick those up, because that all red colorway was insane. And that's really the only other Vapormax I've really had my eye on thus far. We'll see what they do with the silhouette in the future. For those of you who didn't see my first Vapormax video, let me go ahead and break this down, deconstruct it a bit for you guys, and I'll give you a little in-depth peek at the construction of the Nike Vapormax. Starting with the upper, around the lower portion of the toe box, coming up a bit higher around the heel and the ankle right here. You've got a similar overlay to what Adidas does with their all-terrain layering. Essentially, it's just an all-weather layer. It'll protect water from getting into the shoe, and it also protects the knit from tearing. Some people have issues with their toes protruding into the toe box a bit, so that layer definitely does protect the knit from ripping or tearing. And like I said, if you're out running in wet weather or whatever you may be doing, it'll help keep your foot just a little dry. Obviously, if water's coming out of the top of the shoe right here, your foot's gonna get wet regardless, but it helps a little bit. And it's also a nice aesthetic addition to the shoe. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a cool gray colorway. For those of you familiar with Nike, cool gray runs in just about every lineup that they do, as far as basketball shoes, running shoes, whatever it may be. Cool gray is definitely not new. They've done Jordans, they've done Kobe's, they've done just about anything you can imagine. And in my personal opinion, I think this is even better looking than the triple black. I think it's the best Vapormax colorway that they've done thus far. Obviously, personal opinion, which is why I picked them up. So you've got that typical all Flyknit upper. You've got a 3M reflective swoosh on the lateral and the medial sides of the shoe. You got Vapormax branding right there on the heel. The tongue is attached, also made completely of fly knit. Nike Vapormax branding right there on the tongue tag. Insole is removable, gray to match the rest of the shoe. As you can see right there on the forefoot, you got an extra layer of padding, probably ortholite, but it's not branded, so I can't confirm that 100%. Just like the racers and the trainers that I mentioned earlier, the Vapormax does feature that flywire technology as well. For those of you not familiar, essentially the flywire runs all the way through the bottom of the shoe right here. It comes right up to the lace holes. The laces go through the flywire, and then once you tie them up, it gives you just a little extra support all throughout the shoe. Now moving on to the most important and most recognizable part of the shoe is the outsole, constructed of 5 individual air bubbles, the smallest obviously being on the toe, going all the way back to the biggest one right underneath the heel. You've also got Nike branding right there underneath the heel as well. If you watch my last Vapormax video, the most important thing for me is when I put these on initially, I could feel this giant valley right here underneath my heel. But like I said, as you wear these, you let them break in a bit, that actually goes away. I don't feel it nearly as much as I did initially, and it's definitely true, the shoe does get more comfortable as time goes on. And like I said, overall, I'm very happy with the Vapormax. I'm glad I picked up another pair. I would definitely recommend them to anybody out there who's looking for a new runner. But like I said, you have to give this shoe time. You gotta give it at least a week, maybe 2 weeks to break in and really get a full feel for the shoe. Initially, it's gonna feel way different because it is way different than anything that's ever really dropped out there. But Nike did a great job on the shoe. Shout out to them. There was no intent of being negative on my last video. I didn't give the shoe a whole lot of time. That was my fault. I apologize to Nike, apologize to you guys for not giving you a thorough review. Hopefully this makes up for it. Hopefully anybody out there really looking into this shoe and considering this shoe gives it a chance. I think it's definitely worth it. If you guys have any other comments or questions about the shoe, please leave them down in the comments. I respond to everything that's left down there. And as for the Nikelab Cool Gray Vapormax, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I'll go ahead and leave you with some on-foot footage as always. Thank you so much for everybody who watches my videos. I have another pair of Nikes that I actually picked up, the OG trainers. Probably share those with you guys next week. But for now, that's gonna do it. Thanks so much. Until next time, guys, peace out.
Hey yo, shaman is the product of common behind Medea, diggable planets, the roots, big punisher, nickel Nina. If they always stacked together and grew as tall as a tree trunk, simply put, that's me, bruh. MAG is on a whole nother astral plane. I don't rap the same as anyone around me, man. Don't you get it that your style is generic and mine authentic made? I walk 8 miles a day and things never were the same. It's all a game. You're playing in the hands of the fates. I'm Hercules with his trials till I stand with the greats at the gates. I'm Mount Olympus on the Nimbus. I'm as nimble as an nymph is in the liquid. You simple as Homer Simpson, dig it. I made a trek from northeast to south PHL with my mama and some stories to tell. From heaven I fell under a spell of fallen angels. The day my soul I sails when I fold like jacket lapels. Dig it. I'm on a mission just to kick the rhythm into your mind. If you don't dig it, you can give it some time and soak it up, baby. So